school, each Sunday night, I'd watch the practice with none of my friends. I'd turn the dial to ABC to see the creep of the week that Bobby Donald defends. But I'm out of practice.
With your hosts, Keith Varney,
out of practice.
And Michael Joseph Indeglio.
Way back in high school, most every night, my mom watched QVC, so I missed the practice. There was no TiVo, what could I do? Wait 15 years, get fat, then stream it on Hulu. Out of practice.
did you know that cat toothpaste is chicken flavored?
Out of practice.
Did you know Senor Didi is getting his teeth extracted on Wednesday?
Out of practice.
And welcome to the Out of Practice podcast, a podcast in which two straight 40-year-olds talk about their cats. And occasionally we talk about David E. Kelly's award-winning series, The Practice. Guys, it is the season finale of season 5 of The Practice. It is season 5, episode 22, Public Servants. How's it going?
Yeah, you know, fake it till you make it, baby.
We were talking right before we came on air about how sometimes faking happiness really does help the depression.
Yeah, seasonal
So here
depression
we are.
is in.
Here we are faking happiness for you, but mainly for us, because this is our little oasis into nonsense here on the Out of Practice podcast.
Yeah, I've been looking forward with trepidation to the season finale because, as you might recall last week, spoilers for last week, big death in the family. So, where do you go when the penultimate episode is so exciting? Where is there to go but down, apparently?
Well, I was thinking about how we should commemorate our good friend Richard Bay, Jason Kravitz, and answer the question: where did he go? And I have some. I'm going to share with you what he did. Obviously, not next, but the next time that I saw him.
Okay.
He had hopped over to the original Broadway cast of The Drowsy Chaperone, where he and his brother played a couple of gangsters dressed as pastry chefs, and they sang this number.
And that's where we pull it out.
And that's where... No, you know what? Fuck it. We'll take our strike. We're not making any money off this.
Now, Keith, I know for a fact that on the pod I have discussed that I am in no small part responsible for all of the success.
I know.
All of the success.
Of The Drowsy Chaperone. No, and I remember I saw the... Well, it's what used to be called the Gypsy Run, which is now no longer that, which is the final invited dress on Broadway of this. It's before they started previews. And what frequently happens with a final invited dress is there's no programs because they have them printed for the next night when they're going to do that. And it's all just, friends and family and people in the business. So I didn't know that Jason Kravitz was in the show. I didn't know anything about the show at all.
Until this very moment, I didn't know Jason Kravitz was in the show.
Yeah. So I sat down and first off, I had no idea what to expect. I'm like, hey, all right, let's go see the show, see what happens. It's a delightful little masterpiece of a show. And then all of a sudden, Jason Kravitz comes out. I'm like, oh my God, it's Richard Bay. It was great. And in that scene there with Lenny Wolpe, who's just a delightful guy. And of course, this was how Beth Level won her first Tony. It was quite the show. So
what I think is really excellent about the show is that, so real quick, brief reminder. So at the time, before the show
Yes.
went to Broadway, I was working at the National Alliance for Musical Theater, which I'm not sure is even a thing anymore. I think so.
No, sure is. No, NAMT is still there. NYMF is dead.
Right.
NAMT is still there.
So, and basically how it worked is they put together a festival of new musicals, but you only presented a 45-minute vertical slice of the show. And then all these producers came in and they left some feedback and maybe they would pursue a future yada, yada, yada. My role at the time was I was working as an underling for the executive director at the time, whose name I shan't say because I did not enjoy working for this person. And
tell me off air.
Yeah, well, I did a lot of work. I was an employee,
I'm sure.
and
Yeah.
I was introduced on many occasions as said person's intern, and I was like, I am not an intern. I am, and one of the things I had to do with another colleague of mine was select one of the last entrances, because a panel of people select which musicals were going to be selected. But then there's an extra slot, and I got to, with my colleague, we got to pick the last show. We picked this. It made it into the festival. I'm not saying it wouldn't have otherwise, but we got it into the festival. A lot of the feedback was, that's not important. The important part is that many shows, Keith, as a composer, as a writer, it's not always easy to distill your best 45 minutes of an entire plot of a show.
We can't even do 45 minutes about a 45-minute show.
Yeah, so there you go. However, Drowsy Chaperone, the hook is so tasty. And that hook really is Dan Martin, who wrote the show, is this man. Bob Martin, excuse me. Dan Martin is a friend of ours from Titanic.
That's right.
Yeah. A friend, yes. Colleague, I'll say. Nobody wants to be considered friends with us, Keith. Let's be honest.
That's true. I was like, what do you mean? Oh, what, you're protecting him.
Yes,
I get it.
That has nothing to do with us. So, but it's this man who loves old musicals, and he basically comes out, the title of the character is Man in Chair. He comes out in an easy chair, pulls out an old record of his vinyl of his favorite old musical, and then begins to basically dissect all musical theater tropes, and it is just lovely.
It's this beautiful, elaborate parody of old-time musicals through a contemporary, heartbreaking lens.
Yeah, really.
No, and I think I told your story. I ended up at some event, at some party, just spending most of the time talking to Lisa Lambert, who was one of the composers on it, and I think I told her your story. So I think she said, "Tell your buddy I'm grateful." So
yeah, well, not only is she grateful, but the other thing I had to do was stamp my name on a shit ton of rejection letters. So
oh, thanks, Mike.
Stuart Ross, Frank, a bunch of these legendary composers have rejection letters from me, who's nobody. They just made me put my name on it, which was terrible. So that was a cool job that paid no money, so I had to leave it. Go figure.
Yeah, well, fair enough. Well, we have we have a cool job that also pays no money, and that's this podcast. And this podcast usually begins with a segment we call
Filings and Subpoenas. Filings and Subpoenas. Filings and Subpoenas. Filings and Subpoenas.
And of course, we have heard from our good friend and moderator, Phoenix Cage, who continues the discussion about Jeopardy we were having last week. And he said, read more. See what I did there? I'll never click on the read more. He said, Mike, I like Jeopardy okay, but my favorite trivia show was a single big tournament almost 15 years ago that put all the best contestants from several popular shows at the time in a head-to-head competition. Each one answered questions back and forth, essentially on a chess clock. When one runs out of time, the round ends and they go on to the next round and subject. The winner carries his remaining time to the fourth and final round. It was called Grand Slam. If you haven't seen it, you should find the whole series on YouTube. Mr. Johnny Nitro has it in a playlist. You should at least watch the first match because it features none other than Ken Jennings.
And then we have a whole dialogue back and forth. I was supposed to be monitoring myself, but I'm not.
Why aren't you
So much
monitoring
better.
yourself?
Oh, that's so
I
much
mean, we really should be monitoring ourselves during this podcast, and we don't.
So then I let Phoenix know that there's actually that's too loud. There's actually they sort of took a bit of the premise of the that show he's describing. Countdown, is it?
Grand Slam.
Grand Slam, not Countdown at all.
Nope.
They took some of the bits of that and created a new show that's airing now called The Chase that Ken Jennings is executive producing on. And it's got some similarities. It's okay, but I am going to watch not Countdown. I've forgotten once again.
You know what? Just make your best guess.
Quizzy. And God damn, this is gonna be a slog. No, it's the season finale. I'm excited. So, and I was intending on watching that, but I actually got pulled aside because Jen and I started watching. I had pulled some episodes of season 7 of Alone, which is a show you turned me on to.
Well, you know what? I think it is time to transition.
Hold on.
Obviously.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna do this thing, right?
We're going to do this thing. So let's do it in the loudest segment entitled Yeah.
You know what's gonna happen is that things are gonna work this episode because we're so in a place. Shit's just gonna happen.
It's going to be perfect. Yeah.
So yes, we watched Alone season 7. We pulled all the episodes and we were going to try to just because we loved season 6 so much. And I was a little trepidatious for season 7 because they were going to the Arctic again, which though excellent TV is real crushing, and depressing.
It's brutal. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought that's what made it. I mean, because I watched season 6 was the first season that I saw. And then I went back and I saw the other ones and it was like, oh, yeah.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, the thing I love about Alone is that it's not like Naked and Afraid and some of these other survival shows, all which have their merits, but they aren't all pros. In Alone, these are survivalists. These are people who will go kill a muxox with, I think that's what it's called. That's what the guy keeps calling it. I don't know what the animal actually is. It looks like a mini buffalo.
A musk ox. Yeah.
Yeah. He kills it, injures it with an arrow, but then has to go finish the job.
Spoilers, hello.
Yeah, you're right. He also does some hunting with a club, like a full-on caveman, and it has this season has some of the strongest women who have ever been in. And what the flip of this season is, instead of just a free-for-all, who can ever last the longest is the winner. If you can make it 100 days, 100 days in the Canadian northern Arctic, it's $1 million.
Oh, interesting.
$1 million prize. And these people
So it's not just one. Yeah.
It's awesome. It is just
They're
awesome.
unbelievable. Yeah.
So we plowed through it in 3 days. And by we, I mean mostly me. Jen slept through most of it, but I woke her up for the good parts.
Awesome. All right. Well, I almost never have more TV things to talk about, but I was texting you guys about this. I'll first throw a quick shout out. Queen's Gambit, super awesome, super fun. I'm about halfway through it. I find those genius kid with trouble shows very compelling. Anyway, but what I actually want to talk about is I started watching Mr. Mercedes, which I can't believe that I haven't watched yet because it combines so many of my favorite things. Because it's based on a Stephen King novel and novel series. Stephen King is my favorite author, and I've read the first Mr. Mercedes book, and I enjoyed it. But it's also written and created by David E. Kelley. It's a David E. Kelley show. And I just started watching it, and out pops who else but Holland Taylor as a new character created for the series, and she's basically just doing Kittleson. It's so crazy that, here she is, in comes Holland Taylor, giving her, I'll give you an erection from the other side of the room just like she's seducing her neighbor and just like, look, I took naked pictures of myself. Look at it on my phone. And it's so
Is the show
ridiculous.
good outside of Kittleson and such?
Yes, it is.
And you've read the books.
I've read the first book.
Okay.
And the first season is clearly the first novel.
Mhm.
But I find it very like it could be a little faster.
Yeah.
I think it's just a hair on the slow side. But I really do like the performances are great. Brendan Gleeson is awesome. He's always awesome. Anyway, I check it out. I mean, if you're a fan of either of them, you should definitely check it out. And the other thing that I also noticed was in season 1, episode number 3, the episode title is Cloudy with a Chance of Mayhem. And of course, if you're paying attention, there was an episode of The Practice called Cloudy with a Chance of Membranes, both of which a take on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. So David E. Kelley thinks that joke is hilarious and is going to do it. I should really do a deep dive. Maybe this is a Jorge thing. How many of David E. Kelley episodes have been a pun on that?
Oh, that's a good one. I think Jorge would appreciate that assignment.
Yeah. So historian, I'd be very curious.
Yeah. How many overall in the run of the show, but then how many this season? Because we can put it into next week's spectacular, which is my favorite thing, Keith. So I hope that we find a little bit of a ladder out of the dumps because that's my favorite week of the whole season.
Yes. Well, next week, we are doing.
It's a chance to put on some hard pants.
I don't put on hard pants. I'm not going to stand up. Are we going to do a little soft shoe for the
Keith,
the season 6 oopsies? Yeah.
Before I forget, sorry to interrupt. Speaking of our boy Stephen King, our favorite author, and things that maybe can brighten our spirits a bit, new novel tomorrow.
Oh, really?
On the day this episode drops, as you're listening, there is a new, will be released in paperback form first only, as he does with he has an agreement with Hard Case Crime, a publisher, and he releases those kind of smaller paperbacks. So the next book is called Later, which is a pulpy sort of hard case crime novel, which I'm excited about. I will go to Barnes & Nobles and purchase it tomorrow. And
wow,
I think I've mentioned this to you before. I'll mention it again on the pod. Another one in this series of this, The Colorado Kid was the first one he wrote for hard case crime. The next one he did about 10 years later was called Joyland, which is about kids working at an amusement park in the summer and some metaphysical stuff goes down. It's a great one. You should read that as well. If you haven't, we are shills for Stephen King. So I wanted to throw that plug out there. And that concludes More TV.
Yes, indeed. Boy.
Oh, wow. Did you watch the Golden Globes?
I did not.
You didn't miss anything.
Yeah. That was the yes and there.
Yeah.
No. Silence.
You did all right by that decision.
Yeah, I sometimes I watch, sometimes I don't watch. That's just not where that's not where my headspace. I wanted to watch Queen's Gambit last night. That was my
Queen's Gambit was good, even for somebody who I know nothing of chess, and it was still compelling on some ways.
Oh, I like chess. I like chess a lot. I don't play it as much as I ought to, because the only person who will play it with me is my younger brother, Scott, who is like really into it and really obsessed. And Scott and I, because we're brothers, and it's just we're so competitive that he will just crush me over and over and over again. And it's like, it's like, I want to win sometimes. It's like at ping pong, we're like 50-50. And at many things. But chess is not that, because he's much more into it. So I'm like, can we have a singing high competition? No, doesn't work. All right. Let us move forward. We are going to hop back into the time machine to May 13th, the year 2001. And as we have discussed, this one will be eventful. So let's hop back into the time machine and talk about
This Day in the Basement.
Okay, or not.
Or not.
Try again. Maybe roll it again. 3, 2, 1.
There we go.
Yeah. I knew it could happen. Why don't you go first?
Shall I go first?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this was May 13th. Obviously, if you're paying attention, you know my birthday is May 20th. So I was heading into the car to go home and celebrate my 21st birthday in Vermont with my family before going back to Rochester, because as I mentioned before, I stayed the summer in Rochester with my girlfriend at the time in our first apartment. But I went back to Vermont. That is me and my cousin Jess, and me like in my like good like junior, senior in college, like good tubbiness. That's which I feel like I've really come full circle. People say like I wanna be like I was in college, and I did it. I got fat again. But and that is yes,
Adrian!
Yes! Mission accomplished. And that is Jess's dog Betsy, who was so much fun.
A border collie, it appears.
Yeah, and that species of dog, they run like 30 miles a day, and their heart rate doesn't even go up. Like, she was really, really fun. She also thought the bookshelves in the basement were haunted.
Yeah.
So she would stare at them for hours for no reason whatsoever. But we had a lovely time, and it was my 21st birthday. So you think like, oh, let's get trashed. Well, this was the stage in my life where I was completely anti-alcohol and afraid of it. I was like genuinely like phobic of alcohol at that time for like mysterious reasons. I still, after 20 years of therapy, don't quite understand what that was about. Not true anymore. But yeah, so we had a nice time with the family, and this is also a momentous occasion for this day in the basement for me, because in my email archive, my emails go back to May 20th, the year 2001. So starting next week, I will actually have access to emails that I sent and received. Will help me remember what the fuck I was doing next
I haven't
season.
even explored that. This has to be relatively because I did write emails, I think, to my family when I moved to New York in a few months. So yeah, I have to explore that. Although I did delete a good I generally, when I break up with people, I go through an email purge.
Oh, do you?
Like anything that was important or like love letters and stuff, I just purge and burn. It's like
I still have them all, yeah.
It's my version of the Hamilton wife burning the letters.
Yeah. Well, interesting. Well, I have well, I think you're someone who experiences breakups worse than I did. I was sort of my problem is I would always stay longer than I should have, so that by the time I pulled the plug, I was like, it was done. Like, I was like, oh, all right, moving on. So I got all my heartbreak in during the relationship, not after the relationship. By that point, I didn't really care about the old emails. But so so there it is, folks. Tubby Keith. It looks like I'm balding in the back of my head.
It does look like you've begun a slight receding of the landmass.
Yeah, I and my mom jeans.
You definitely got some Costco jams on, and
hell yeah!
You went for a head first slide, which is never advised.
No, I think that was my work shirt from the dining center too. But to be fair, I have many things wrong with me, but I did not lose my hair on the top of my head.
Hey, but Keith, let me say this, man, on behalf of myself and all of the listeners. You got a nice little ass there, buddy. That's quite
a little
an
junk
ass.
in the trunk. Here, thank you.
Keith is blushing.
Mike is thirsty.
Someone turn up the saturation, or is Keith a little?
I got a very
all right, let's get off that. Oh, okay. Well, let's change moods, shall we? All right, so let's cut to it. Look, we talked about last week with my dad. He made some decisions, and we were kind of waiting, and then finally, all the hospice paperwork got filled out, and we were able to come home. And we had talked about dignity and about kind of getting to make some decisions about where your end of life will be. And my dad got to choose this like spot on the couch. Like not my mom. I can't remember where my mom sat. To be honest, actually, but thinking back to like where we would sit when we would watch TV shows and stuff, I can't remember my mom sitting anywhere. I don't think my mother ever sat down. Just she was the being a mom. There was always something to do. She never sat down to watch television with us, which is actually really sad. But
Yeah.
my father, however, when he was home and we were the section of the couch is where he is in my brain. There are memories of other places, but that is where he is. It's where I remember watching all of Mike Tyson's fights. We would order Domino's pizza and we would just stay. That was the times we could stay up late and we'd watch Mike Tyson, and he loved boxing. It's where he would watch golf and I would nap. Just seminal memories of that. And that's where he wanted to die, basically. And so they took out a little section of the couch. They put a hospital bed. There were these two tanks. I remember they almost looks like when you'd go to Party City, USA, and fill up balloons. It looked like those kind of tanks, which I guess was oxygen. And I guess there was also, you had a morphine drip. And there was this really lovely nurse. I don't remember her name, but she was there quite often. And I remember them saying it was like a 3-day process, basically, for the blood to kind of get tainted. And then that would be that. And it was myself and my brother and my mom and my dad's mother was staying with us at the time. And this nurse, and my sister was still in high school. She was a senior in high school. And, the first couple days was okay because it was a lot of activity, and my grandma was there. And so there was a lot of, there was just a lot of stuff happening and a lot of chats and getting things decided and prepared and whatnot. And then it sort of like gave way to just this waiting period. And that waiting period was just a lot of stillness and, for me, a lot of fear. I didn't like to be in that room alone when he was there. My grandma died when I was really young, and I found her, I guess, when I was 4 or 5 years old.
Oh my God.
I sort of to this very day have a kind of a uncomfortability with corpses and death, which I've dealt with. I deal with in therapy. That was a really traumatizing experience. And so I remember I wasn't in there alone a lot. I tried to avoid it, but then you'd go to bed and he would just be down there, and it was just really it was a terrible period. And what was the worst, I think, is that my grandmother was there. And there's that saying, a parent should never have to see their kids die, and
Yeah.
that's true. But also, you should never have to sit there and just wait for it to happen. And she did. She like held vigil. She just was always sitting there. And I remember it just being really sad for her, but also like you couldn't get those moments alone with him because my grandma was always there. And he was almost instantly when he came home on the morphine drip, he was basically in a coma. There was no like really, I don't know. I can't speak to whether he could hear us or any of that stuff. I don't know. I don't really make a judgment on all of that. But he definitely was not conscious with us. So, 2 days turned into 3 days, turned into, I think, a week, 8 or 9 days, which is just like far past what they had said. And you could tell, like, his breath was really laborious. It was just a person who was at the end of life. And my dad was I think we've talked about it. He was a son of a bitch, and he was a fighting son of a bitch, stubborn person. And so there was this time period. It was March 16th. So what's that? I guess if the show aired on a Sunday, which was the 13th, right?
Right.
So the 16th would have been Wednesday. So it was a Wednesday afternoon, and it was probably around 2:21, probably around noon, 12:30. And I'll never forget very vividly. Like we've talked about, my memory is piecemeal about this period of time, but this is clear as day. Beautiful, sunny spring day, and my brother suggested to my mom and my grandmother to take the dog for a walk. We had this little Chihuahua at the time, and they did. It was good. They get some fresh air. They left the house, and my brother, in a very courageous act, I think. It's almost like a Little House on the Prairie episode, but I don't know what compelled him, because this was not something we did a lot. But at the time, my brother was less conservative and very much about. He was very metaphysical and chase your dreams. He's changed, but that's a different podcast. He sat down next to my dad, and I was with him, and he talked at him like you hear in the movies. And he said, Dad, we're going to take care of Tina, which is my little sister. She won't. Nothing you were supposed to help her with, thanks, honey, will go unattended. Mike and I will take care of that. We will, we'll be there for her high school graduation, for her college graduation, for her wedding. We'll take care of all of that. We'll take care of Mom. You don't have to fight. You don't have to fight anymore. And Keith, I swear to you, it was like the moment those words exited his lips, my dad took a deep breath, and that was it. He let it out, and he passed away. Instantly. And my brother and I have talked about it subsequently, so I know that it's not something I put into my brain. So, like I've said many times, it was a combination of a little bit of panic feeling because we were alone with him when that happened, and so you jump to all these weird. I don't know. At least I was feeling panicky, but also this sense of just utter relief that it was so much waiting. There was so much waiting about it. Not counting all of the just time in the hospital and this and that and the false alarms for years and just what was kind of inevitable had happened. No time to process the grief at the moment. It was just the release of it. And then my mom and grandma came back, and that was a separate thing because obviously they had their reactions, and my mom's was as complicated as a person could probably ever try to explain. I'll never be able to fully comprehend because she was also exiting sort of a prison of sort of suburban housewife oppression and all kinds of stuff and different podcast. My grandmother was hysterical, which is, the sad end of my grandmom is that kind of made her lose her mind. She never was the same person after my dad died ever. And until the day she died. And then, my brother, God bless him, right in that moment realized he was going to have to step up because my mom and grandma were not capable. And he called the coroner and the whole thing. And then I had to drive to the high school. My sister was playing softball and was on an away game. And so I'll never forget, I was sitting in front of the gym. I got out of my car. And they still have these, I guess, but how the parking spots used to have those like concrete blockers up front that you would like drive up till your tires touched it? I remember sitting on one of those and just in a time vacuum. Like it wasn't moving forward, nothing. It was just like a stillness. And I waited. And then I remember the bus pulling up. And I remember my sister seeing me through the window sitting on that block, and like she knew instantly.
She had to know, yeah.
And then I remember driving home with her, and we took one car. And then, my grandma was out of the room, and the coroner was there. Everybody was there when we got back. They all left the room, and the five of us, my dad was in his bed, and my mom, sister, and I all kind of stood around this little horseshoe by the foot of the bed. And I don't think anybody said anything, but I remember thinking in my head, there are times in life when you take a mental picture and you're like, remember this. And I did that at the time through all of the fog and the numbness and all the million feelings. I remember making it a point to say, this is the last time physically we will all be together. This is it. This is it, because they're going to take him away right now. And so remember this. It'll never be this again. And at the time I'm very emo, so it was very final, but I'm glad I did it because
that's not emo. It was just the truth. Emo is like feeling that way when it's not the truth. That's full on the truth.
So that was, and then the next thing I remember is his funeral, which was really nuts because my brother was wrestling at the time, and uh, I was really, in a way, I was kind of angry because my dad had done a lot of stuff before he passed away, and one of those things was that he made it so that we could not bury him or get a casket or get a tombstone or anything because he did all of the arrangements, and the arrangements were he was cremated, and then his remains were buried with my mom's mom because he knew that he really loved my mom's parents, or my mom's mom, and decided that he would be buried with them. I guess there was an arrangement or whatnot. And so my dad, instead of the patriarch of my family, doesn't have his own sort of space. He's just like a name on the side of my grandma's tombstone, which is, at the time, really upset me. Now I realize that my dad we're so similar in some ways. Like, he didn't really give a shit. Like, you don't need to come see, like, don't come visit me at a place. Like, that's not what's important. And he didn't want us to have to spend money on it and all that kind of stuff, right? So I get it now. But at the time, I was a little bit sorely about it. Surly. And, but my brother was wrestling at the time, and he was being trained to wrestle by the Wild Samoans, which was a wrestling tag team in the 80s, you might know. And he became really close with the Anoa'i family. And, a good 10 to 12 giant Samoans. In my family, all these short Italian people are all there coming in and stuff. And my dad's like shady friends coming to do their thing. And then these like 15 giant Samoans walked in, and nobody knew what the hell was happening. And then we all kind of spoke. My brother and I spoke, and then my sister gave a speech, which was really difficult to sit through because it was her as a 17-year-old kid who just got up in front of all these people and listed all the things she wasn't gonna have her dad for, which was like really rough. She's like, my dad won't be here for my wedding. He won't be here for my high school graduation. He won't be here for my, it was like a therapy session out loud, and it was really terrible. But time moved on, and a lot of healing needed to happen, and most of it wasn't going to happen then.
Yeah.
But I realized in that moment, I didn't realize. My body, my psyche realized without me knowing it consciously at the time that I needed to go elsewhere in order to allow myself the space to kind of figure it out. And we'll talk about it later when we get to November when I'm in New York. But I'll never forget, this ex that I've talked about a bunch, Carrie, who convinced me to move to New York, and I'm ever thankful for that because it changed my life for the better in so many ways. But I thought, Keith, if you'll indulge me, this is not comprehensive in any way, shape, or form, but I had on hand a handful of pics that I thought we'd kind of sort through a little bit here.
Oh yeah.
So this is a pic of my dad in '79, so a year before I'm born. So he's 34 years old here, so younger than me. Before his life will change for the second time, he already has one. He has my brother here, rocking the bell bottoms. Amazing.
Yeah, boy. I mean, really leaning into that 1979.
Here's another time. This is him sitting. You can't tell because we're zoomed in, but he's in his spot on the couch. We're in our house now. I'm rocking quite a bowl cut.
Yeah, you are.
What else we got here? This is going back in time a little bit. Talk about 70s, man. That is friggin' awesome. I mean, that is. Here is.
That is like a power suit right there.
Yep, and that's the last of my dad with like really real hair. At that point, you can tell here that he and my brother both lost the hair on top of their head. So my dad started rocking the toupee. This is a rare picture of my parents smiling together, which is a different podcast. This is one of my all-time favorites because because this is where, this morning, Keith, I sat, the last episode of Alone, I'm not going to spoil it, but I'll say that one of the persons who is towards the end of the episodes is dealing with the loss of a parent as well. And it sort of got me in my feelings because I knew I was prepping to talk about this today. And I realized that like in so many ways I'm different. In more ways I'm the same. We're similar. And we're just goofy SOBs. So this is my dad on his honeymoon, wasted, and I don't know what's happening. I can only imagine he is the life of the party and doing something ridiculous but making people laugh.
Wait, and it's hard to tell through Zoom. Is he wearing a shirt that has hair on it, or is
that's just him in the natural,
the full indeglio?
Yes, he could get an agent with that kind of body hair. He could get an agent.
I know an agent / bail bondswoman who might be able to get him a commercial deal.
This is at his wedding with my grandmother.
Oh,
it really broke her heart, man. Really broke her heart.
Yeah.
This is my dad, as I remember him a lot, with my sister. That she, what's really cool is my sister. See that tattoo on his left arm there? You probably can't through Zoom, but she ended up getting that tattoo, my sister.
Interesting.
Yeah, on her calf or her foot or somewhere, something, which is cool. I didn't do something like that, but here's my dad and grandmother again with me and my little sister when she was just born, which is cool.
Cute.
Here's one of my faves, sitting at the couch, me and my brother and my dad. Just one of my faves. I got just a few more here, sorry.
No, it's amazing.
Same spot.
Good Spider-Man shirt.
Oh, rocking the Spider-Man shirt, yeah. This one's cool, too. He was kind of jacked up there a little bit.
Yeah, right?
This
you got a Flyers shirt on? It?
This picture is, I love this picture because my brother, my dad, my sister, and I'm smiling because I'm always a ham, but I remember vividly, I can't remember why we were taking this picture. My mom insisted, and none of us wanted to be there. So I remember in the moment, we all loathed that we had to take this picture.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know, right? Like, you just don't know that in the future, these moments, these stupid moments, will be everything. But a couple of things I want to highlight here. That wallpaper. The wallpaper in that room is textured because my dad had gaudy sensibilities. As you can see, that like small chandelier to our right. And
that was your dad who did the wallpaper.
In a couple of the rooms, yes. And what you can't see is on the adjacent wall there is no wallpaper because it's just a wall mirror. The entire wall is mirrored. Like we're the Gaudis or something.
Your house is very much like tied to an era.
Yes, absolutely. And it's basically 60s era mafioso Poconos was the aesthetic. You can't see it on Zoom, but our YouTube viewers will note that my dad is sitting upon a couch that is covered in plastic.
Yep.
My mom had all of the furniture plasticked at this portion of the universe, and I'm rocking my 12-year-old paunch there.
Oh no, I love it. And I always it's funny. I hate to go on a tangent here, but these photos that get taken when people don't want, like with the kids, like my mother just apropos of nothing sent us all via text all of our pictures that we took on our high school graduations.
Oh yeah.
And like in the cap and gown, and like same thing with me where I was like, I'm a performer. Yay, I did it, and my older brother looks like it's a hostage video. Like he's literally like at gunpoint.
So you'll know I told you about the time when my dad got the Steven Seagal autograph for nothing, but he also did some his company did some work for, this is heavyweight champion of the world Joe Frazier.
No shit.
And his son Marvin Frazier, and my dad was thrilled about this. Look at the deep V he's rocking though. That's what I do.
Well, he has a deep V in every one of these pictures.
Yep. Now, just to kind of show you a contrast, this is a little bit later. When he would get sick with his diabetes, he would just balloon up because his blood couldn't, his kidneys couldn't do the cleaning. This is one of his proudest moments of his life, is when my brother, who was the first indeglio to ever go to college, and at this moment, my brother was in his just streak of achieving every goal he set. He decided he wanted to be a cheerleader, though he had never learned to tumble or do any of those things. So in the course of 2 months, he learned to do all of that shit and make the squad as a freshman, which is unheard of. And my dad was just so proud of him. So I remember that. And then finally, I wanted to close with, it's going to be just a blurry mess for you, but this picture does everything for me. So in fact, I'm going to blow it up here. Hold on. Let me do. Oh, hold on.
Is that your basement or your living room?
No, actually, the entrance to the basement is just off camera here to the right. If you were to
Oh,
exit
okay.
house right here, you would go down. You would go through a gate, Keith, not a door, a gate.
Oh, right. So we could chaperone you
Right.
guys.
And you would go down into the basement. But in this picture, you can see my mom's left arm on the couch, so she's upstaged. You can't actually see my mom, which is probably for the best because one part of Christmas I hated was they were always fighting. But first of all, there's the rear projection TV that I discussed
Right,
on
we
many
talked
occasions.
about.
My mom's Nutcracker collection on the mantle, the Christmas
Mhm.
tree, us in our specified, I'm sure this was true for your family too, you had a specified place you would sit to open your Christmas presents.
We didn't have a specified place. We had a specified order. We all had to take. We went around the circle. Everybody did one, so nobody was opening presents at the same time.
The couch plastered in plastic, and
course.
exactly where my dad is sitting is where he would end his life. That's where his bed was. And this photo literally triggers every emotion that my body is capable of. Like
Sure.
happy, nostalgic memories, the sad memories, the sort of that longing, I think that the majority of us feel of like just wanting to be able to go back to that time because you believed at that time that you were safe and that you were protected and you just didn't have, my dad would say it all the time, Keith. He'd say, you don't understand that like how great this period of time is because you don't have any worries. And you think to yourself, of course I have worries. Does so-and-so from school have a crush on me? How am I going to possibly get invited to that party? The shit you thought was important that today you'd be like, oh my God, what a stupid idiot I am. He would say it all the time, but it meant nothing. And one of the things that is just sad is that now I'm at the place where I get it. I get so many of that stuff. And I would love to now take that conversation to the next level. And I never get that. I never get to have that conversation. I dream about it. I dream about him on occasion. And that's kind of the journey. I appreciate everybody coming on it with me. It's not totally done, but there's some more to talk about. But I thought about today when I was prepping about what I wanted to say, and I didn't cover half of it. But I think some of the memories that stick back is I remember him pulling that guitar out from the back of the couch. I remember going to Sam Ash one time and him just like watching me play. And I remember how excited he was to set up that Laserdisc player or the surround sound speakers. And I'm like, oh shit, he's a giant nerd too. Like that's all me. I got that. His ability to just like capture a room and tell a story and make people pee. And you don't know how much of that story is true, but it doesn't really matter because it's an awesome story. That's me. And as kind of distant and unachievable as he is, as he's kind of faded as just become a story to me, less than a real thing, it's nice to talk about it because I realize that it's not true. I still have direct tactile, I can still touch it. And I can still remember those memories vividly to the point where they're not just memories, It's not just a fairy tale. It's still real back there somewhere. And who he would have been, I'll never know, but who he was, I have touchstones to because it's a lot of who I am. And so this is, it's been good. I appreciate the ability to talk about it for 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's an honor to receive the story. I mean, it really is. And and speaking of stories, I mean, I think you're right about still being connected because stories are real. And storytelling is what our entire lives are about. And whether the stories are true or not, they are real. And that they are how we as a species communicate, really. And it's like, because memory itself is a story. We don't have perfect memory. It's all it's a blend of memory, of emotion, of experiences then, experiences now. I mean, story is what we do, and it's I'm honored that you would tell that story to us.
And I think this is also a different podcast, different story. But the thing that we've talked about a lot that I think is something that you can only grow, and to people who might be listening that are younger or maybe have a troubled relationship with their parents. I'm never.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. One thing that has come to mean a lot to me lately in my life, as we look in the mirror and we look at our failings and our shortcomings and the things that are great and they're positive and the achievements we've made, our blessings, our shortcomings. All parents, all people, but in this context, all parents are just people doing the best they can. And sometimes that's not great. And sometimes that includes gigantic mistakes and misfires. But the sometimes we continue to look at these people through the lens of when we were kids. They were supposed to have their shit together, Keith. They were supposed to know what to say. They were supposed to know what to do. And the truth is that there's no test and no license to pop out a baby. And some people get the better end of that coin, and some people get the raw deal. But for better and for worse, those are the people who shape us, and we owe a great deal of who we are to those people. In many situations, obviously, I can't paint. You know what I'm saying? But
no, well, I think for most people, and there are parents out there who aren't doing the best that they can, and that's
totally.
and nobody does the best they can every day. I mean, like literally nobody does, and I think we, 22, 23 years into therapy for me, I think I've taken a sort of a normal progression through that relationship where you start out where the truth is they are all powerful, they are all right, they are all everything. Then you go through a period of they are all bad, they are all wrong, they are these monsters. And then I think as I get older, it's sort of like, well, it's all true. All of the pieces are true and they all coexist. And the, we are not all one thing. I think we, as children and as young adults and as old adults, we really want to paint things into one singular picture, something that is easily understood, something that, even a mixed picture, we want it to be static. We want to understand it. Spider-Man is Spider-Man. This is what Spider-Man can do. And it's just never static, and it's never simple and easy to understand. And because all of the factors are moving, even if they're gone, time is still moving. You are still moving. Your memories are still moving. The knowledge that you have is still moving. It's never static.
Yeah, sometimes I start to worry, like, if I don't have kids, then like, do I end with me?
No.
I know. I know. I'm just saying, these are the things, as even those of us who are taking the therapy journey, like it's never over. That's one of the big misnomers. People are like, when am I fixed? Well, guess what? You broke for everybody.
Well, but we have devoted our lives to continuing storytelling, to get back to it, in many different ways. I mean, we create, and whatever we're writing, whatever we're performing, whatever, even a memory of a live performance that somebody else has and maybe tells that story sometime. Like if we don't have kids, and I'm not going to have kids, my legacy is all what I leave behind. Obviously, part of it is the stuff that I've written that maybe nobody cares about, but maybe somebody cares. Maybe one person cares, and I have all of these things out there. But it's also the relationships that we have effects on each other, whether we want to or not, good, bad, or ugly. And that will affect other people and other people and other people. And it's I don't know. You're stuck with us, world, until YouTube deletes this.
Yeah, that's true. Look, I'm going to leave it.
Clean up their files.
I'm going to leave it with this. When times get tough, and when I start to like get dark about my dad and stuff, the three things I bring myself back to, and this is what I'll leave with I'll cap this portion of the Out of Practice podcast, this journey of this day in the basement with these three memories. When, my dad, like me, were nomadic sleepers. You'll never find me in the same place. I sleep on the floor, I sleep on the couch, I sleep over here, I sleep over there. I just can't. That's how I roll. And so my dad would always end up, regardless of what his journey was throughout the night, he'd end up in my room. And I would wake up most every morning to the smell of my dad putting his cologne on, getting ready from work after having slept on the floor all night in my room because he wanted to be close to me. Because we both need the same type of white noise and whatnot. I remember staying home on Saturday nights, I don't care how, all through high school, until I got into the band. Because my dad and I would watch Cops. We'd order Domino's pizza, eat pizza, watch Cops, and our favorite was America's Most Wanted, which is so crazy that we're doing this back in time true crime. It started back with him. And third is just, is ironically enough, is getting in trouble. Actually, no, two more things. Getting in trouble, and he would always say, "Pal, you got to help me out. Your mother's driving me nuts," right? It was never, "I'm mad at you." It's always, "Your mom's mad. I'm trying to get through it." And he'd always call me pal. And in my life, no one's ever referred to me that. That's just my dad, right? And then finally, when I would practice my guitar, which was at weird times, I could always count on him hiding in the other room just to listen. And him telling me the story about when he would watch me in those couple of plays he saw. He's like, "I always just like to watch your feet," because he's like, "Your feet would tell me that you knew exactly what you were supposed to be doing and knew where you were supposed to be." And it was such a weird compliment, but it's those touch tones. Look, we've gotten to places in life where I don't need people to be proud of me anymore, but I've gotten over the phase of like, are my parents proud of me? I'm past that. But it's those touch tone things I remember somebody was. And that's a special thing. I am blessed and privileged to know that he was and probably would be.
Yeah. No, those are beautiful. I mean, really. And I think very astute, the feet thing. Like, that's really astute.
Yeah,
That's
especially since I ain't a dancer, so he wasn't referring to that.
No, but also like feet really, especially on stage, your feet give you away.
If you're not, you got a plant, man.
Every time. Like if you don't know if you're not sure what's going on, your feet are you'll be tap dancing whether you want to be or not. That's just if for anybody who's public speaking or acting or anything, here's the best advice. If you're ever thinking to yourself, what am I supposed to do with my hands? What am I supposed to be doing? Where should I move? Where should I go? Always start with nothing and nowhere. Yeah.
Just stand there. That's the best place to start.
You don't need to move. Yeah.
Well, all right, let's do it. Let's move forward.
All right. But let us move forward. Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, there it is. That's what was happening this day in the basement. So stay tuned to the season 6 episode 1 where we'll talk about 9/11.
Holy shit! You guys did not know where you were getting when you Googled the practice and podcast.
Oh my god.
Oh shit!
All right. Anyway, let us move forward with a little segment we call.
It's time for the Out of Practice Podcast's This Day in the World. The greatest hits, the biggest movies, headlines from Vermont, essential sports updates, and for some inexplicable reason, the weather from 20 years ago.
It's a beautiful
now back
spring
to
day.
Keith and Mike.
Yeah. The number 1 hit continued to be All For You by Janet Jackson. My goodness, the top movie was still The Mummy Returns in its 2nd week. And the cover of the Burlington Free Press, interestingly, was crooner Perry Como dies.
Oh, man.
So in the same week.
Perry Como goes on to like be a seminal part of my life. Seminal.
Dude, yeah. Because you performed his music. Oh, of course, because of Plaid.
Forever Plaid, which is the show that basically saved my career on a handful of occasions.
Yeah.
And
What
to
a great
find it.
show.
Yeah.
We've both done that show, but never done it together.
That's
We
true.
should. That'd be good fun.
It will be during the run of this podcast that I will have started doing that show, and I have plethora of video clips, so you will get to enjoy
Ooh.
my
Oh, I'm excited about
first
that.
plaids. Yeah.
I don't think I have video, but I have pictures from mine. All right. It's now time for the stupidest segment. One we call
It's time for Sportsball.
Continuing the saga of the last chance of a Stanley Cup for Ray Bourque. The Avs beat the Blues in the conference finals, setting up a matchup in the Stanley Cup finals versus the New Jersey Devils. The series went back and forth, with both teams having the lead before the Devils pushed Bourque and the Avs to the brink of elimination after a Game 5 win. Colorado would battle back, winning Game 6, setting up a final showdown in Game 7. Quite literally the last chance for Ray Bourque in his last ever game. And of course, he won. In a great moment for hockey, Ray Bourque finally hoisted the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, Ray.
Yeah, it was very exciting. All of us Bruins fans, or just all hockey fans, were
really.
rooting for that.
Myself included, Keith, as a very big hockey fan. as you
Oh,
know.
yeah. Well, you were in your Flyers jersey, so.
I should
when you were a
say
kid.
it's my pleasure, and especially my pleasure for Phoenix, because we're in Keith's Sportsball segment, which we know is very important to Keith.
Everybody's favorite segment.
Yes. In fact, so it gives me great joy to spend time during the Sportsball segment to talk to Keith and get Keith psyched up for the fact that today, March 2nd, Keith, actually it was yesterday, but let's focus on today, March 2nd.
Today's the first,
Oh,
technically.
you're right.
But
Yeah, okay. I'm very confused. I've confused myself with
what year, what day, what's
the
happening?
meta plot of our podcast. Keith, baseball's back, baby. Spring training is here. So forget the fact that it's 30 below outside. It is spring training. Baseball's back, baby. We're going to give it another go.
Boo.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's sports ball. You asked for it. Okay,
Baseball
well,
isn't a sport. Anyway.
give me the finger so I know when to start it.
All right, here we go. Wait, I got to find it first. What? Wait, here we go.
I'm a human being. God damn it.
Yeah.
My life has value, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
It's time to talk about the damn episode.
1 hour, 2 minutes and 45 seconds in. We got there.
Oh,
we did it.
We
baby.
got there. We did it. So if you just skipped all of that, shame on you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really growing here as a person, people, and you just
That's
skip right through it.
We're having like we just had like an hour-long therapy
You know what?
session.
I'm not putting links. I'm not putting jumps in this episode. You have one shot, and you got to watch it all. You want to get?
must
you want to get there?
listen to my childhood trauma.
If I had to go through it, goddamn it, so do you.
You do too. In real time, damn it. Okay. So at some point we agreed to talk about The Practice Season 5, Episode 22, entitled Public Servants, which aired on May 13th, 2001. It was written, he's back, baby, by series creator David E. Kelly, and directed by Dennis Smith, who last directed The Thin Line. It is the season finale. It is the season of big swings. And it is the season finale of...
What is that supposed to mean?
What's your problem?
Is this what happens to women when you insert your penis?
What?
What?
What does Mike think's gonna happen?
You know, what if he would have drank the curdled milk? Then what would have happened?
I don't know, Jimmy, but I did kill a DA.
You did.
Yeah, and it wasn't Helen Gamble. It was... So look, there's going to be a reckoning.
It was a Toledo surprise. That's what it was.
Yeah. There's going to be a reckoning.
Chop the nuts, pound the dough.
Chop the nuts, indeed. Man, what a bad way to go. What a bad way.
Yeah.
Gunned down in the parking lot. Now, at that point, we have to assume that... who was he talking to? He was down there with Abruzzo and Helen, right?
Right.
And they had left by that point, you have to imagine.
Yes.
So the big question for me is: are we going to deal with Percy from Green Mile again? Like, do we have to like catch the person who killed Richard Bay? Is that what this episode's going to be? Because it seems oddly. Look, I loved Richard Bay. We loved it. We loved the character. I loved the growth of the character, except for this part. But don't get me wrong. I did feel guilty for having critiqued his eating as an actor, even though he got canned from the show. So I feel double bad. I killed him and I made fun of him.
You did.
But he wasn't as important a character that I feel like we're going to spend 2 episodes at the end of the season to like discuss. But at the same time, if we don't deal with the fallout at all, that seems kind of weird. You know what I'm saying? On top of that, in the splash screen that you chose for this episode, we see Bobby hugging Helen, and I think it's Helen, and crying. So is he crying over Richard Bay, or is he crying over the sort of fact that they all live in a very dangerous place and he's got a kid? This leads me to think, Keith.
Yes.
That this might be the episode where Bobby Donnell, our prince, retires from the game.
Wow.
I know he's not off the show just yet, but that doesn't mean he has to be litigating. I think in this episode, season finale, Bobby bequeaths the firm to Eugene and leaves.
Okay.
Because I think there's no reason that him and Spader can't coexist for a little bit before Bobby goes on his fond farewell. Moving into season 6. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. Well, there it is, folks. All right. It is time for you to hop over to your podcasting service of choice and listen to this episode. And we will be back for the season finale of the Oopsies.
Wait, what? No, you said that wrong.
The season finale of the Oopsies.
Oh yeah, I guess season. You're right.
It's not the season Oopsies. It's
far
the
be it
Oopsie
for me to
Award
criticize
show.
syntax. You're right.
And I'm the nerd bully.
BRB. And we are back, baby.
Yes, indeed we are. Boy, we have gone on a journey all the way through season 5. And just in case you didn't remember, we have my favorite segment.
Mike has 30 seconds to remember what just happened on the show. You know, Richard Bay's still dead. And we have the trial continuing of Green Mile, and all kinds of stuff happened. Helen murders a guy. There's a thing. Another thing happens. And then ultimately, he's only found guilty of murder too. But then the judge is like, guess what? 150 years. Suck it. Everybody doesn't know if they want to be lawyers anymore because Pippin's a murderer. And, you know, Rebecca's upset with that. And so we walk off in a hero shot, and everybody's like, what's happening next season? We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know, but I know what's happening next for us. It's our fake award show entitled
Ladies and Gentlemen, the Out of Practice podcast, in unofficial, unsolicited, unfactual association with David E. Kelly Productions, proudly present
Oopsie.
The Oopsies! Celebrating excellence in acting good, lawyering good, guesting good, and being Tom Brady. Not to mention, this is where we rate the episode and stuff. Now, here are your hosts, Keith and Mike.
What the hell are the Oopsies?
Well, I'll tell you, Jackie. It's our fake award show, which begins with
Most valuable.
Well, I mean, I guess my first vote goes to Rebecca because she, you know, got Pippin off, even though not only was there evidence.
The only thing that gets him off is choking chickens.
Right. And the evidence, there's a preponderance of evidence that he was a murderer, but she lawyered him passed that and also gave a great close. So I think it has to be Rebecca D and Jimmy, but it was really Rebecca D.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, there is an argument somehow that Helen got justice, sort of, but and as a lawyer, but no, I think it's definitely Rebecca D. Cricket who got that serial killer off so he can continue serial killing. So way to go, Rebecca D. Cricket. Okay, guys, limber up.
Already famous cause you've been on TV, getting a paycheck, or the first entry on your IMDb. Way to go, but you're the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor on the episode.
That's gotten, we have, the month and a half of rehearsal has really, really paid off.
I don't know why we have to do it at 9 o'clock in the morning, though.
Well, Keith, because that's when your dance legs are made. I really thought I could come up with like a turn of phrase, like an industry turn of phrase, and nothing came.
That's when my dance legs are made. The quote was, "That's when your dance legs get made."
Comedian? You wouldn't know that we had 20 plus between us, almost 40 years of industry knowledge, theatrical industry knowledge.
I know, both of us. And I'm sorry, not for us, but for the art form.
Yeah,
have been paid money to dance.
I have it on video, and Keith just refuses to let me play it. Refuses. Trust me,
many times
Yep.
we have been paid money, and part of our job description is to dance in an unironic fashion. But thank God we got our dance legs made.
Yeah. Well, now, so Richard Bay doesn't count here, right? Because he's still a member of the main cast in the credits. We can't give him a posthumous best guest actor here.
Well, I mean, he can't. He was not a guest actor this season.
That's right. Okay. Well, I guess Pippin was good.
Mm-hmm.
He gave that great chicken choking admission at the end. You know what I also thought was really great and sort of unsung is, and we've heard him before, very, very noticeable voice, was his attorney.
Oh, Stephen Gilborn. Yeah, he's
who I
always
thought,
good.
Yeah, he was good, and he had a great scene when he realized that he dropped
He's
the
a
ball.
former OOPSY winner.
Yeah. So I almost wonder if he should come back in, but I think that just due to screen time and the fact that we really kind of, and by we I mean me, trampled over his performance by trying to shoehorn terrible murder lyrics into Pippin, I think that Pippin, who goes by the name of, in this episode...
Oh, Henry Lubati
is going to be, I think he is the best guest actor of the episode.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, at this point, I'm tiring a little bit of the serial killer reveal and the serial killer monologue. Like, what does the FBI say? Like, there's only like 30 serial killers active at any given point. And I mean, it's not Criminal Minds where they've caught 350 of them, but we've definitely, had at least 70% of all serial killers go through the
Boston legal office. Yeah.
The Boston legal office. So, however, he did do a great job and had the best hair of the episode for sure.
For sure.
So, congratulations to Pippin, Henry Lubati for winning Best Guest Actor and Best Hair. Coming up next.
You killed your podiatrist or blew the case, but you let a single tear run down your face. You're the best actor on the show.
We have our hands full today because we had great little snippets of scenes from everybody. I mean, even Eleanor, who was barely in the episode, got a little bit of screen time in the beginning. I think the main players that we have to contend with, Bobby Donnell, great in every scene. And really a lot of sadness
Dylan.
to portray. Dylan McDermott.
Great
I think
scene.
Rebecca Crickett's scene with Jimmy puts her definitely right into contention, as well as her clothes, which was, succinct but good. And you could see the weight on her as she was delivering it.
Lisa Gay Hamilton.
Thank you for translating my speaking. But I think for me, Helen Gamble edges it out here because not only
Boyle. They're not real, right?
I don't know anything anymore. Not only did we get to see her, we got to see her pain in a few scenes. We also got to see the effects of her pain. And yes, were there some villainous tropes and some kind of crazy over-the-topishness with the origin story of her villain, which we haven't particularly named yet. So far, it's Darth Helen.
Darth Helen, yeah.
But even those were grounded enough that they were frightening and or intimidating at the least. And on top of all of that, they didn't seem out of place. She played them as real as they could be, to the point where Ray Abruzzo was scared of her.
now.
Yeah.
I'd be scared of her.
But then the eulogy at the end, even though I spoke over all of it, she was still able as an actress to take all of those disparate performances of the episode and show that they were all performed by one person. That it is really Helen.
Motivated by that feeling. Yeah.
Helen is feeling all those feels, and she feels justified in what she did. Now, we can talk whether we think the episode had a strong viewpoint of anything. That's where I think we might have a conversation, because I'm still mulling it. But as an actress, I think she had the toughest hill to climb because of the sort of varying peaks and valleys of what was written for her. And so I think for that reason, I'm going to give it to Lara Flynn Boyle.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I think Dylan did some of his best work in this episode, in that scene. And it was really, really excellent work. If the episode had been about him, I think we'd be doing that. But this is sort of a tour de force for Lara Flynn Boyle in this episode. And it is Helen full Helening. This is Helen at an 11. Like we've seen Bobby at an 11. This is Helen at an 11. And I think she's a really compelling character because she has, these good impulses. And we see, this whole season, we've watched her battle between her good angels and her bad angels. And she is just somebody who appears to be stoic so often, but her behavior is the behavior of someone who feels deeply. And I think that like you said, so I thought she did really excellent work. I mean, and I think the redemption of Helen arc ended where it began, but it all kind of made sense. You know what I mean? Like her behavior doing all the things that she did. Well, I guess we'll talk about it in the tires section, but I really liked that it was using her character at the height of her intelligence. I mean, she was evil, she certainly she wasn't at the height of her morality, but she had an objective and she got what she wanted to accomplish done and didn't have consequences. Like she literally got away with murder and got this guy,
and unlike
Hutchinson.
the last time and we can talk, we'll talk. And unlike the last time it happened with her, where we didn't really acknowledge that and we didn't really talk about it, this time it's clear and she ain't denying it, right? It's on the table.
Yeah. And the Abruzzo scene, again, we're almost in tires now. Mm-hmm. So you know what? Let's just for the sake of sakeness, congratulations, Lara Flynn Boyle, on your Best Actor Award. And let's quickly do
the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady.
Keith knocked it out of the park with satire over killed Tom Brady. So there that is. Let's enjoy
I'm
it.
definitely going to get sued for that.
Yeah, that's why it's coming off the screen. And because we already started a conversation that I think people are more interested in, we'll just say that this week is clearly Pip and Brady. So that's easy.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And then let's move right on into...
Oh, God. I have a cue.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to announce how many spare tires this episode gets.
Yeah, so I'm curious. Let's have this a little more conversationally. I'm curious whether you think, because I'm questioning whether the B case is even necessary. Like I get that it lets us let Rebecca, who's sort of the moral center of our firm, have that ever-present debate that we're having every episode is like blah 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 blah. But for me, juxtaposing evil Helen in the pursuit of justice versus evil Green Mile, who is evil, right? But they both have the same objective, right? Basically, it's to outdo the other person, get what they want, and whoever gets in the way, to hell with it. But one is saying they're doing it for the good, and one is doing it not for the good, right?
Right.
Paints the picture of the chaos we had talked about earlier during the episode much better than the tropes of another serial killer who we find out midway. Like
I think there is a connection.
Okay.
As well as there is a connection to our conversational spare tires, because you didn't set up the one shots. That
Correct.
was so clever. Very, very smooth. I still called you out on it. I actually think there is a connection between the Helen story and the serial killer story, because you have the sort of the downsides of the law and the public servants. I mean, it's the title of the episode. So as a public servant, Helen was able to use the law by not doing her job really and getting somebody killed, and it had a bad consequence. And Rebecca, however, is ethically using the law and has a bad consequence. So it's sort of like the law, you have they're the two angels, right? So you have Helen use unethically and Rebecca ethically, and both of the consequences were bad. And I think,
okay. Well, then what I think is kind of then comes up short in the writing is that it super tropies that murder, right? Like it completely trivializes the people he killed and the case entirely, because it's not about him and something, which I think is sloppy. And
his dead wife is a chess piece.
Yeah, it's sloppy, and I just don't know that it was. I understand. I'm just saying
they don't have time for it, because you're doing this whole, so you can't see the dead wife's family, because like I think the way it trivialized it was that nobody we saw on screen gave a shit that his wife was killed.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody.
And I guess it gave us a way to get Kittleson to fulfill her contractually obligated number of episodes for the season.
Probably, yeah. Holland Taylor.
I just feel like David E. Kelly is
real.
David E. Kelly is correct. Thank you. David E. Kelly is skilled enough to have written the whole episode about the A case. I think we could have done it. I think it would have been perfectly connected to last week, which is interesting. I just think that last week was set up as a season finale, right? That was a season finale.
Yeah.
This was less so, but that's not to say that I think it was weak. Look, we've Bobby McRambo'd, we've done the big cliffhanger or the big bombastic season finale before. So having a much more cerebral one is effective. Not to mention the other thing, speaking of neutering, had we never done the Helen McMurderer previously.
Ooh, maybe that's it. Maybe it's Helen McMurderer.
I like it. Murderess, Helen McMurderess.
Well, we don't gender our titles here.
You're right. We're woke.
Which, well, actually, it's probably less so because we just default to the male.
Yeah, right. I don't know. So somebody explain. Somebody who knows.
We're wrong.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: it doesn't come from anything to do with gender. It comes from laziness,
sheer laziness and ignorance.
I don't want to have to do 2 bumpers or 6 bumpers, however many. Yeah. Anyway,
had Helen McMurderer not shown up seasons ago, the impact of this episode, I think, for me, would have been trifold. Right? I mean, because we would have crossed that boundary where it's no longer using the law as our weapon to enact justice, however you want to define that. She stepped into clearly plotting a murder. I mean, straight up, whether the person deserves it or not, that's a whole different podcast. But straight up murder. And we identified it, right? And I think what look, there's a lot of episodes in a season. What gets a little muddy is that, the whole arc of Helen this season was pretty cool, pretty interesting, like you said, and it came full circle. There are a couple of those moments that stick out, like that moment with Lucy. Like we should never then have Helen be the moral authority on anything, right? If this is the arc we're going for. But we'll let those go. Like,
Well, I actually disagree. I like that she's complex enough to do both.
All right. That's fair. I think what I find most interesting, and this is a season in which 2 of our cast members have had babies. We've leapfrogged into other universes, other television shows. We then brought them back during the season finale multiple times into a drinking game. That the most compelling arc of the entire season is Helen Gamble. And and I think Richard ends up serving that arc. The whole character of him, I think they realized, that's what this has done. And look, what's crazy is Bobby has been our hero for so long. I am interested to see where he's going or what's going to happen. I'm interested to find out with what's happening with Rebecca's crisis of conscience, but nothing to me is more interested in as to what the fuck how do we continue with Helen? We have to, it has to go somewhere. And I just think that also I want to point out that hero shot of them all walking away from the funeral is badass.
So badass.
And I love that Helen is a part of that group, and that despite all this back and forth, through Richard and through that eulogy, she's able to say, look, despite all the bullshit and the arguing and the murder and the fighting, like we are all on the same team we're supposed to be, and we're just doing the best we can. So
yeah. Well, I agree with you, and we'll talk about it next week in the season oopsies. Look out, folks. If you saw last season, we do it.
Are we going green screen again? Should we go green screen again?
We should definitely go. No, but we have to go green screen again. And I've queued up some really fun clips. It's gonna be worth a listen.
Okay.
Or view. You should definitely like the season oopsies. The whole thing's gonna be on YouTube.
If you only watch one.
If you only watch one, you definitely should watch the season oopsies on YouTube. Anyway, I mean, this season is, you're right. I think it's Helen's season. And I think last season was Eleanor's season, and this season is Helen's season. And I think it's interesting. I've liked the complexity of that character. I agree with you that had she not previously murdered somebody, this would have been much more shocking. But in that she had, I would have liked, I think I'm with you. I definitely would have liked this to be a single story. And I would have liked to watch Helen's decision-making process, as opposed to obviously she's going to do this. Like the minute this happened, you're like, oh, Helen's going to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very straightforward.
Yeah. And the way they had her roll up to the scene of the crime, it just felt very sort of like, we're not even trying to make it. Yeah.
And I don't mind it. I like that. I love the fact that this is how she handles things. As a character, I just find that very interesting. She's sort of an anti-hero. I would have liked, what I would like to see moving forward is what should have happened at the end of this episode. I think last time I rewrote the the season finale.
Yeah, go for it.
So if I'm rewriting the season finale, the episode happens just how it is, but as they go and they're doing their hero walk, and right before they fade to black, Ray Abruzzo comes up and arrests Helen for murder. And that becomes the season premiere of season 6. Because that, I think, we at least gave a nod to calling out Helen's behavior with that scene with Abruzzo, which I really liked. But if we had, and here's the problem with having only one DA, only one person on that side as a main cast member, which is why I think they put Bay there, is Abruzzo prosecuting her. He's not a big enough character. If Bay had survived, Bay would be the person. It's like, Helen, I'm kind of in love with you, but I have no choice. As a public servant, I'm going to have to prosecute you for this, and then make that the first half of the next season. That's what I would do if I were writing on a 21-year-old show.
Yeah, a few seasons back, I had predicted and or hoped for, I can't remember which, that Helen would actually jump sides of the table and join the firm. And I'm so glad that didn't happen because they're able to cover a much wider range of sort of philosophical debate by having these things happen on either side of the table.
Yeah. Mike, we have to move on with our lives, and I need to spare tires. I need a number of tires from you.
Look, I liked a lot of the ideas. I don't know that the episode itself fulfilled what I'm kind of filling it with. Like what I think it's going for isn't necessarily the same as what it is. And it's not in a vacuum. You know what I mean? Like I know that it is lessened by the fact that she's done this before. I think they really screwed themselves a little bit there for me.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a good episode, but it's not great. I'm going to give it a high 7. I'm going to give it a 7.8 even. 7.8.
Okay. Yeah, I think I liked this episode more than you did. I agree with you on its weaknesses, but I thought, I'll tell you why I'm going to give it more tires than you. It was for the shot of Helen walking back towards the camera from the crime scene. And you could hear the dun, 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 and that felt earned over the episode and also over the season. Again, it's not in a vacuum, which I was like, hell yeah. You know, Helen McMurderer.
That was good.
Totally.
And then the hero shot too was.
And the hero, you know, and there was a lot of stuff. I thought the montage, while I felt good for Jason, I was like, yeah, good on you. That's awesome. It felt weird and out of place. And because the practice hasn't done that before, it felt very guilty. It felt, I became aware of the show when that happened. It sort of, it poked the fourth wall. And it felt like clearly David E. Kelley or the producers or somebody felt terrible about killing off Bay. And so wanted to do this sort of over the top montage send off. And there are some shows that fits naturally into. If it's like Grey's Anatomy, like, yeah, of course. But this felt a little shoehorned. And that was my weird point while I was pointing out.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to No, because it's important. There's something important that has to happen.
Oh, okay. That is, I have to give some tires.
Yeah, that first.
I am going to give 8.57 spare tires.
All right, so we're not as far off.
No, it's not crazy far off. I just liked it a little bit more than you did.
Yes, so we also have to address the cell phone, which I believe I'm going to have to roll it now. No, I'm not going to. It's so nice to not have to do any posts on Mondays. But this was the phone that I suppose would be used in that hypothetical murder trial of Helen as to why they shot.
It was a justified shooting. That's right. Yeah. Okay, folks.
I do like also that the murderer, the hitman, was a white guy. You know what I mean? Like that's such an easy trope to fall into and make it a person of color. But I'm glad that all of the really bad serial killers and
finish
criminals
the season with a cop shooting.
Yeah.
Let's not do that.
For what it's worth.
Okay. Well, for what it's worth, and it's not a lot, you have gotten through, I'm clearly going to say, the longest episode of the Out of Practice podcast history. If you would like to email us and complain, you can...
Nope. Oh, boy, it happened.
You can email us at outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on social media at Out of Practice Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. Check out our blog, outofpracticepodcast.blogspot.com. You can do us a huge favor and join the jury. Leave us a rating and review. We will be so grateful. Nobody does. It's very sad. This episode of the Out of Practice Podcast is brought to you by generous donations from Leanne Wrights, Cloud Lover 69, Jorge Naboa, and Jennifer Massanova.
You know you can join them. All you have to do is go to our show notes in the podcast.
Pick up your Nokia.
Yeah, and beep, beep, boop, 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 boop. One-time donation, monthly contribution, whatever you want to do. You can do it, or you can just tell a friend, hey, these guys are going through some shit. Let's do them a solid and listen to the show.
They need a friend.
I guess this goes out to everybody who's going through their own shit. You're never alone, even if it's just a silly podcast. We're all in it together at the end of the day. And we send you our best laser sounds.
Laser sounds.